the crypto market is expanding, 100 billion, and growing by leaps and bounds. As we've been talking about for years now, there's a lot going on here, and it's mutating and morphing, and things are happening. The buzzword of the week, buzzword of the month is ICO, initial coin offering. Stacey?
Max, we're going to talk about initial coin offerings, but first I want to establish that this market started with Bitcoin. Kaiser Report was the first international television show to cover it by 3 years. We were 3 years ahead of CNBC. We covered that when it was like $2 a Bitcoin. Then it went up to $3,000 over the course of the next 7 years. Then we had Ethereum come on the market, and a lot of people are talking about a thing called the flippening. Tell us what the flippening is.
The flippening is when the market capitalization of Ethereum exceeds that of Bitcoin. And so it's flipping. They're flipping the places on the market capitalization chart. So that would be the first time, if it happens, that Bitcoin is not the dominant.
Yes, and more of the trade volume is going to Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is not, it's very dissimilar. It's not that similar to Bitcoin. It achieves a different thing. We'll go into that in another episode. But Ethereum is on that blockchain of Ethereum is this ICO market. So the initial coin offerings are happening on the Ethereum blockchain, which is causing the price of Ether to soar so much, which is causing people to buy Ethereum in order to participate in these ICOs. It's become a big market. So I'm going to look at this Reuters headline here to kind of start to go in a little bit to this becoming kind of controversial, because big names like Barry Silbert, Roy Sabag in the gold market, they're all like saying this is crazy South Sea bubble, tulip bubble sort of insanity going on in the ICO market. Initial coin offerings, present dangers to investors, new challenge for U.S. regulators. Now, to name a few of them, we have Bancor just in the last week or two, and that's with Tim Draper is heading that. We had Brock Pierce. He went through the official, he's of the ICOs, he's the only one I know that intentionally made sure to abide by SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission regulations. Then we've had the basic attention token, and just to show you what the basic attention token was, this is what their prospectus is essentially online. The basic attention token improves the efficiency of digital advertising by creating a new unit of exchange between publishers, advertisers, and users. It all happens on the Ethereum blockchain. The value of the token is based on user attention, which simply means a person's focused mental engagement. So people were pouring into this. It raised a lot of money very fast, only to be then superseded by the Bancor, which came afterward, which raised $150 million in 3 hours. So these are the sort of, products being offered to the market, and investors are pouring in.
Well, the potential for these coins, if you combine it with artificial intelligence, when you combine it with 3D printing, you combine it with social media, combine it with browsing, as the attention token does, you get paid to browse effectively using the frictionless economy of cryptocurrencies to make that all happen. When you combine it with a lack of trust in the physical world and a crumbling ecosystem and more virtual reality, it's a 21st century disembarkation from the physical plane of existence into a virtual plane, and the virtual plane uses cryptocurrencies where thoughts become money, what I call the psychic equity conversion, the PEC. I've actually written about this for 25 years, going way back to my days on Wall Street when they started to create derivative products based on ideas that were derived from securities, but not actually securities. And that was the launching pad for so much creativity on Wall Street. And now we've got cryptocurrencies, and now we've got initial coin offerings. And there are a proliferation of these ICOs, these initial coin offerings. The SEC is not on the radar whatsoever. They're starting to now look at it and try to figure out what the heck is going on here. They are unsure what to do. And meanwhile, the forces that shape laws in Washington, the lobbyists, they're now being funded by crypto billionaires and crypto multimillionaires. So the ability to reshape laws and to reshape the SEC in the image of crypto is upon us.
It's possible, but I will go into that. The article does mention that calling yourself ICO, which sounds very similar to IPO, which the SEC regulates. That's their market. And if you stomp on their ground, just like if you issue a gold coin that looks like a US dollar, the Liberty coin, those people get arrested. Charlie Shrem, a friend of ours, he was arrested, did 2 years in prison for operating as a money exchange via Bitcoin. So they could just pounce. They could arrest you when you arrive at JFK. Right now, we don't know what's going on, but we do know they're looking at it. In terms of the investors, the people piling in on these tokens, right now they're all happy because the price, everybody's making money. These things are doubling, tripling in value in like the course of hours. But the tokens do not in themselves confer ownership of a stake in the business. And that's one of the ways that the people offering these coins say, well, we're not offering an ownership stake, therefore it's not a security. This is what one of their arguments is. And this is but the SEC is going to look on whether or not the people buying think they're becoming an owner of this particular, what could be security if they rule it such. Depending on how the deal is structured, the investment in the tokens might lead to a future share in revenues of the venture. In other cases, the investment can be compared to fundraising or a crowdfunding vehicle using tokens that could be redeemed for cash at a later date once the venture is successful. Since the issuance of such tokens is currently outside the scope of regulatory oversight, they are seen as a quick way in which tech startups can raise capital without all of the necessary requirements that would come with, say, an initial public offering in stocks. So we'll see what the regulators say, but this is right now it's not deterring anybody from investing in
how many times did folks knock on the SEC's door and told them about the fraud being perpetrated by Bernie Madoff?
Sure.
I think it was 4 times.
It was Harry Markopolos, and he's warning of another fraud, but I don't know if he's actually going to get the SEC to look at that.
Right. So, I mean, the SEC, they have their good days and their bad days. They're not. They, as I said, their profile in the marketplace is shaped by money, by lobbyists, by contributions, by politics. And I think that the crypto community knows that with this added $100 billion, soon to be $200 billion, and then $500 billion, that they have tremendous latitude to reshape the law in their image to support the crypto universe, which is a debarkation point from a system that supported ultimately a failed state called America, a failed state called Britain. Britain's in free fall. Britain's collapsing. A failed state called Greece, Spain, France. All the economics of the 20th century, 19th century, 20th century have generated a failed globe.
So yeah, even back in the beginning of the nation state, when early nation states, we had the emergence of things like the East India Company. The stock market in Amsterdam was basically created for that. That led to all sorts of speculative investments eventually in London, the South Sea bubble, the tulip bubble. People became insane and then lost it all. And that's when people started being beheaded. That's when the king started beheading people because he lost money. It depends on if you basically ruin the wrong people with these. But in terms of what the article from Reuters, who they talked to about whether or not the SEC will get involved, they do establish that the SEC is in fact looking at it. Whether or not they get involved, we don't know. They did decline to allow the Winklevoss brothers to launch their own ETF. But from a regulatory and legal perspective, what remains contentious is whether the issuance of such coins are the equivalent to the creation of a new security and should therefore come under the oversight and regulation of the SEC. Peter von Valkenburg, director of research at cryptocurrency advocacy group Coin Center, told a recent New York City conference that what participants in the market want to avoid is the creation of a token that acts as a security. Quote, it's like painting a target on yourself, because what does an organization like the SEC regulate? They regulate IPOs. That's what they regulate. So let's just change one letter and make it a C and then it's okay, right? No. Why would you adopt the terminology of the regulator? when you're building a thing you hope they don't regulate, he asked. I know you say and you maintain that the nation state is falling apart. However, long after governments fail, the bureaucracies remain. And those bureaucracies are things like the SEC. And their power is to regulate the IPO. And you try to mess with their power, then they disintegrate. So they're going to do everything to maintain their power. And if you say, oh, my ICO is like an IPO, but not an IPO because it's a C, not a P. You see? Get it? You could be taunting them. They could be taunting the wrong person.
And they're venal.
Of course.
And you open a Bitcoin wallet for everyone at the SEC, and you start sending them Bitcoin, I guarantee you they're going to change their tune. That's the way it works in America. It's the dollar, baby. There's no concept or ideology. It's free market competition. And nothing is more free market competition than cryptocurrencies. And we're going to reshape the entire regulatory framework. Now, of course, it's volatile. It always has been volatile.
That's what I was going to get into. In the last bit here, I want to establish that everybody is making money right now, and they're all happy, and they're all insanely happy, and they're hysterics, and they're high, and they feel good. But again, not all ICOs are created equally. Due to the complexity of the underlying projects, experts argue that investors need to have the technical expertise to be able to evaluate whether investing in an ICO makes sense. Moreover, the startup itself should provide sufficient information for investors to evaluate the investment. In some cases, the information is inadequate. So, people are pouring money into it. We will warn you that some of these, they might just be exactly like the South Sea bubble. Famously, during all of that, the Hogarth had some prints about people down there in the city of London, insane. It was like bacchanalia. It was like insanity around everybody just they set up little shop with their little cardboard boxes and saying, like, here, invest in my entity. Our mission, our enterprise is to yet be determined. We're going to do something. Just give us money and you'll make a lot of money. So this is what a lot of these ICOs at the moment could be about.
Well, Warren Buffett famously compared Bitcoin to rat poison. But what he ironically did not understand is that the rat in this occasion is Warren Buffett.